to try to teach them. They unfortunately weren't able to join me. Obviously, I'm working all weekend and all week, and Kelly's back in Cleveland with them, so unfortunately I wasn't able to bring them. But this to me is crucial. You know, I talk about 8 different tools and 8 different accounts that are available to us that help us get ahead. And 2 of the accounts, the Roth and then CISA accounts, obviously you can utilize really, really well for your kids. The CISA account, if you don't know, is a Coverdell Educational Savings Account, right? And I can put in $2,000 a year until they're 18, $36,000 total going in, and take that money and invest it in the same things that I invest already. Right? So I can go and buy a rental house with it, I can buy a tax lien, I can buy a note, depending on what it was that I'd like to invest in, whatever I'm good at. If, let's say, a lot of times when I talk about CISA accounts, they'll say, Eric, it's $2,000. What can I do with $2,000? How can I really take $2,000 and turn that into any kinds of money? Well, hold on for a second. It's not the amount of money that you put into it, it's what you can grow it into. I've got a good friend, Jeff Kent. Many of you probably know him. He's been at our networking conferences several times. And I think his daughter's 12, so total he's put in $24,000 into her account. And the last I saw it, his daughter's account was worth $117,000. Right? And the great thing about these accounts is they can grow tax-free because you can pay for your kids' education. The other thing that's really good about the CISA account is I can pay for instance, if my kids were in a private middle school or in a private high school, I can pay for that. Versus a 529 plan, you can't. I can also pay for their books. I can pay for their living expenses while they're in college. 529, you can't do that. And look, for instance, if my daughter was in middle school and she needed a new iPad for school because they required it, then I could buy the iPad out of that CISA account, right? Be a qualified educational expense. For me, that helps me sleep at night, right? I can pay for my kids' education tax-free. That makes my life easier, right? But what's more important than that? Anybody? What's more important than paying for your kids' education tax-free?
Peace of mind.
There you go. Right? Because obviously I work for Equity Trust Company. I love working for this company. I believe in what we do. I was a client before I ever worked here. And so I'm very passionate about this. I enjoy teaching other people what we do because they've helped make me successful. They've made my life a lot easier. A little bit about myself. I have 7 streams of income. 1 of them being equity trust. The other 6 being investments or businesses that I own outside of equity trust. And so when I get done with this tonight, I'll go to my room and I'll do a little bit of work on some of those businesses. Now, what my kids used to do is they used to come to me and say, Dad, what are you doing? Well, I'm looking at this investment. I'm seeing if this makes good sense. And what they used to say is, well, come on, Dad, it's boring. Shut the notebook down. Let's just go through the football or play a video game or whatever they're interested in. And but now they don't do that. Now they come up to me and they say, Dad, what are you doing? And I say, well, I'm looking at one of my investments to see if it makes sense. They say, is that the house I own in my Roth IRA? Is that my college education house? Right? You strike a chord. So now when I jump in my truck to go look at a rental house or go look at an investment, they're pretty excited to go, especially if it's one that they're investing in. So you change the paradigm. And what my kids know at 9 and 12 years old, I didn't know until I was 30 years old and owned a business for 8 years. Right? At 9 and 12 years old. They're probably the only people in their schools that own rental houses too at 9 and 12. A little bit different. Right? So we have some very special guests with us. We have Rick Corrado and Josie Corrado, and they're going to teach us what they're doing and some of the things that make them different at a obviously very young age. And we also have Jan and Brittany Duke. And Brittany I met in St. Louis, about 5 months ago? Something like that. And she sat in the front row with both their parents on either side, and I was, blown away. I mean, my my one-day seminars last about 7 hours, 6 to 7 hours, depending on the day and how we have it set up. And Brittany, every hour, is asking a question or two. Probably asked more questions that day than anyone sitting in the audience. So at the end of the day, I complimented Brittany, and obviously her parents were doing such a great job. And so afterwards they came up and talked to me, and as Brittany was walking away, her mom said, "Hey Brittany, don't you want to give Eric your business card?" And I did one of these, right? I almost fell over, right? So Brittany, and then she was 13, she has since had a birthday, and she's 14. Getting much more mature now. But at 13, I was blown away that she owned a business. So with that, I'll let Brittany tell you about her business.
Well, I actually have 3 businesses that I'm involved in. One is a dog walking business, and in our neighborhood, there's a lot of older people, and most of them have dogs. And since we live in St. Louis, Missouri, a lot of times it's pretty cold in the winter, and so I figured that doing a service that could help them and also help me get started in my businesses. I started this about 2 years ago, and since then I've also added a babysitting business, and my new favorite is a technology business, and I'm spending a lot of time in California right now because I'm being homeschooled, and so my grandparents live out there, and they live in a retirement facility, and so while I was out there, my grandma got an iPad, and she had no clue how to use it and was completely overwhelmed. And so I started teaching her how to use it, and then her friends got iPads, and they came to me asking if I could help them as well. And pretty soon, I was able to do a full-blown lecture on it that lasted about an hour, and almost 60 people came, and it was a really fun experience. And so I'm looking forward to doing 2 more of these in October.
That's pretty incredible.
That's fantastic.
Rick, so if you would share this story of you and your daughter, and you were just sharing with me a story about a video and some of the things that you're doing that's different.
If it's okay, I was going to get to that with probably with a little bit of the story again.
Okay, perfect.
I could start with. So what happened to me was I observed my parents. My father had a 401k, and he talked about it a lot, so I was familiar with what that was. My mother was a real estate agent, and so I got the idea that she only made money when she sold a house, and then when she sold her last house, she would have no more money coming in. Now, of course, she had a better plan than that, but that's a 10-year-old understanding. And so when my parents split up, I was very worried about my mother and how would she retire on this. So when I was 14, I went to the financial planner, made an appointment, showed up in my jeans, and I went to him and I said, it's only my sister and me, and my dad's got this retirement plan, but I perceive that one day we're going to have to take care of my mother, and how do we do that exactly? For whatever reason, that guy took me seriously. He's still my financial planner today.
Wow.
I'm 46. I love him. But he drew a Mercedes symbol. You know what that looks like? The circle with the 3, the steering wheel? Yeah. And I was like, great, we invested in Mercedes. But he said, no, you're going to build businesses that you own a third, and your mother owns a third, and your sister owns a third, and that way whenever your mother wants to retire, she'll have that income stream. You won't have to cash in your own retirement fund, your own kids' college fund. You'll have that stream of income because everything you do to grow your own business is also growing hers. So we have 12 companies that operate like that now, and it made me think future. Well, what happened was long before I ever got working on that plan, which was 14 years later, I had my
your daughters.
Hi, my name's Stan Brady. I'm 57. I have two daughters, now 14 and 15. I have to remember when their birthdays were to do that. And very proud of you young ladies for being engaged. Um, uh, my daughters are going, have always gone to a private school. My wife, a corporate wife, who always was on the verge of being transferred somewhere. So we were looking wherever we went for a school scenario that would be pretty consistent anywhere in the world. And so when the CSIS opened up, I saw that as a good opportunity. I'm already doing real estate transactions. I saw that as a good opportunity to help offset on a deferred tax-free basis their tuition expenses and basically all the deferred education expenses. I also was looking for opportunities to loan smaller amounts of money. I'm in the lending business and real estate. So what I did was, with very basic, probably $2,000 opening deposits on the CSIS, started doing some option contracts with my daughter's CSI IRAs, and that made them more liquid. And then from there, we had a little bit of a war chest to do the mobile homes that go into our mobile home park, that type of thing. I have worked hard to try and educate our daughters. I think this is a huge part of kind of the family planning process that our country needs. And I have our girls, I was telling Rick on the phone the other day, to get them some earned income. I would pay them to work in my real estate office. I also paid them to read as many books as I could find that they would read. So our girls have read Millionaire Next Door and Roth IRA for Kids, and went to Amazon.com, found some good reading material. It was kind of telling. My mother worked in the Recorder of Deeds office. She had retired from Sun Oil Company, Eastern PA, and she worked in the Recorder of Deeds office in the immediate courthouse, which is outside of Philadelphia. And we took our kids in to see my mom one day at lunch. And my mom, in her early 70s, was the youngest person working in the courthouse Recorder of Deeds office. I mean, there were people in their 80s working there, and they were typically widows that needed the health insurance. And we walked out, my two daughters were a lot younger then, said, "Dad, everybody in here is just so old. I can't believe those old ladies are still working." And I hadn't picked up on that thought, but it was a great opportunity to kind of expand on, this is why you need to start now. This is, the compound interest game. I'm probably going to do that with my Cal-Use cookies or something, but instead of marshmallows. But I think that's a great way to start the kids out. I engage our girls in my business as much as time allows. I take them to the courthouse with me when we have to record documents. I take them out to look at properties and that type of thing, and really just try and get their wheels spinning in terms of how we go about it. And the CSIS are a great plan. They now have Roths, they have some earned income, and they've opened Roths up, and they're starting to learn the process.
That's great. And I think it's a great way, especially at such a young age, to show somebody what compound interest is. And I was just thinking about while I was going through it. Maybe you could even do 3 different bags and start out with it, whether it's a cookie or a marshmallow or whatever. And bag number 1, you're paying taxes. And so maybe they leave the marshmallow in, but you're going to take a piece of it out anyway, and that's what goes to the federal government. And depending on your state, you're going to pay state income tax. And maybe you have another bag, and that's the tax-deferred retirement account, and the other one's a tax-free account. And then maybe you could explain, even obviously at a very young age, how you do that. By the way, I don't think I mentioned at the very beginning, but I've got twin boys, and that's Gavin and Garner. And my daughter's name is Lindsay. Other than the fact that I love my daughter and my 2 sons, and I like to talk about them, why do you think I mentioned them here today?
Because they get paid.
I'm sorry?
They get paid.
That's right. My kids that are... Oh, right, yeah. I don't have the photo up right now, but you can pay your kids, right? And my kids get paid. Now, why do I pay my kids? it to Kelly, and then she lives 10 more years, and she passes away, and then she gives it to our kids. They can grow it for the next 60 years, tax-free. Right? So when you talk about estate planning, which obviously is a major concern for all of us, that can be a great way, the way the tax rules are written right now, that you can pass your estate tax-free to your beneficiaries 100 years. And if I told you some of the numbers on a Roth and putting in 5,000 or 50,000, it would be staggering. But for fun, I actually did an interview with Brittany about a week ago, and prior to that, I actually did a webinar, and I actually talk about Brittany quite a bit. And so on that webinar and in the interview with Brittany, I had her Roth IRA. She's so far put $10,000 in the Roth. And how many people in this room believe for the next 48 years she's going to continue to put $5,000 in a Roth IRA? Yeah, absolutely. And I would also, she believes, and I also believe that as Brittany gets older and probably does more things with her mom, I want Janet to talk a little bit about what she's done. This is very interesting. I didn't know a lot of it until I had the interview with Brittany. But as she starts to make more money, she's going to start looking at small business accounts, right? And why is she going to look at small business accounts? Because you can get so much more money into it, right? But just with that Roth IRA, if she puts in $5,000 a year for the next 48 years, when Brittany is 63 years old, with a 12% rate of return, how much money do you think that is? Anybody? You're close. $14.885 million. Right? With a 12% rate of return. Are you guys getting 12% rate of return? No? But how much?
She calculates them at 20, which is on the low scale.
Right. Yeah. I use 12% because when I met you guys, I think that was the lowest you were getting. You're actually getting a lot more.
Right.
If I put the 20%, people wouldn't believe it.
Right.
Right? They just wouldn't.
Off the chart.
Yes, sir. Can they be paid for household chores? That would, I don't know about that. That would be something I'd visit with my CPA about, if you could do something like that. But here's some things you can do. You can pay them for advertising. I just mentioned my kids. They can get paid for that, right? If you have a business, you put a picture of your kids on your business card. You've seen realtors with pictures of the whole family. They can pay them for that. If you had a rental house or a house you were going to flip, you can have them clean it out and you can pay them for that. Often, the question I get asked is, what can you pay them for that? Whatever the market rate is. Whatever the market rate is in your area for that. So if you were to go out and hire someone to advertise and put them on your business card, what would it cost you to do that? $5,000 would probably be pretty inexpensive for something like that, right? Jan, if you would, talk about how you first got Brittany involved in your business.
Certainly, happy to. Well, it's been a privilege helping Brittany get excited about investing, and it's been quite easy because, as most children, they love to tag along and follow what the parents do. And so what I started from day one was taking Brittany on appointments with me, and it actually added a lot of credibility to my investments. When I was making offers or selling property, it was just a nice conversation piece to have my daughter with me, and people appreciated that I was bringing her along, and it just made them feel more comfortable. And there were properties that I bought that I wouldn't have bought, or properties that I sold that I don't think I would have sold if she hadn't been with me. So it was a huge advantage. And then, as she said, I started paying her commission, and it was a huge commission for a little preschooler to get $25. When I closed a $500,000 property, she got $25.
I told my mom to stop after 20 because I was a little bit confused what I'd do with all this money. But she insisted, so.
It was a huge motivator. And at one time, she even took the whole chunk and donated it to her preschool. So she was using it for good things, but it was great to be able to motivate her. And of course, it was a small piece of my expense, but in her eyes, it was huge and just got her excited and motivated. There was one house when she was about, maybe 6 years old, that we went to purchase, and it was an early Sunday morning, and we got there before she's right, your house just has a carport, and these numbers that we're looking at are for houses with garages. And they said, okay, where do we sign? And they signed the purchase contract, and we walked out a few minutes later, and as we were walking out, I asked the sellers, so do you know where you're going to move to? And they said, no, we just know we want a house with a garage. So that was their hot plate, and I didn't know if she picked up on it. So it's been a huge help having her involvement and having her become interested and see the profit potential. And as she has alluded to, she's run the numbers, so she has that carrot. She's got those financial goals. And as we help our kids do that, and as Rick was saying, the compound interest, Einstein said it's the most powerful force in the universe. And it's nowhere is it more powerful than in the lives of our children and grandchildren because they have that element of time. So it's fun to see it all take place and be able to transfer the information. Because I think we all feel that our children know more now than we did at age 30, 40.
Absolutely, there's no question. And, we're all individuals, so we all have different reasons for being in this room. Generally, it's surrounded by family. Mine are obviously, my significant other, Kelly, and then my 3 kids. Rick, so you taught them the power of compound interest at 4 and 6, and then what was maybe the next step of what you started?
Well, in all those situations, one of the main things was I really wanted them to learn and realize, not to force feed them or lecture, which I'm good at overdoing anyway. So I really wanted them to get it. So we waited for that year until the two of them came up with the question, well, what happens if I leave them both? Which it wasn't compound until then, right? Until baby Marshmallow had grandbaby Marshmallow. But Josie actually approached me, so I waited while I was playing these investment games for another threshold, and that threshold was, can I participate? You want to tell them the story of your first investment?
So my first investment, my dad was buying some apartment buildings in Washington, D.C., and was fixing them up and then to sell them. And him being so involved in business, and my Nana and my aunt, I was surrounded by it all the time, and that was typical conversation. So I came down one day and I had $2. I was like 7 or 8, and I said, Dad, if I give you my $2, what will I get back? Invest in the building, what will I make? He said, well, you'll make like 80 cents on your $2. Like it's looking at a 40% return. I said, okay. So gave him my $2, and he invested that into his buildings, and 4 months later I got the 80 cents back, 40% invested return. So that was the first investment. And since then, this was 7. And then when I was 8, he had kept teaching us the principles of investing, and then more principles of financials involved in that as well, and what you do with your money. And one of the biggest lessons that he's ever taught me with that I apply every single time I get paid, is what we call 40-50-10, and that's take 10% off the top of everything you earn and donate that. Make a contribution to your favorite charity, to your church, give it back to your community. And then 40% live on that. All of your expenses, all your vacations, your excursions, everything you want to do, make that fit in your 40%, and then 50% invest that. And so like I said, I apply those numbers every day. And so now I'm investing in a Roth. I have a Roth IRA and a CSED account, and within that, I'm investing in penny stock, and to grow that to invest in more real estate commercial properties.
If you would, give her a round of applause.
I think the important thing to add there, so that you know that you can do this, is obviously I couldn't really put her $2 on a Reg D exempt form. So in the beginning, I just paid the kids the returns. Does that make sense? I mean, when you're getting started, the way they saw it, they were in there. I took them to closings on buildings, had the realtor hold an envelope, and they put their $40 in. I wasn't trying to make teenage millionaires. I made them use their own money. But they put their money in the envelope, and very ceremoniously, before she was able to actually be in the investments, and that's why she can fund her IRA or CISA and stuff now. But it was the next step, was what I was getting to, was really sort of playing along until the money was big enough that they could actually put it in for same experience. What difference would it be if they gave it to an attorney or if they gave it to me and I told them I wouldn't? Does that make sense?
That's an excellent point. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure I didn't get a 40% rate of return on my first investment. So congratulations. Yeah.
And what was the yield on that, Chips?
We all about 120%.
Very nice.
Wonderful.
Stan, obviously you're a very advanced investor. You've invested in a lot of unique things. What are some of the things that you're doing? I know you've done some great things with your CISA, with mobile home parks and mobile homes. And why don't you talk about that and how you're including your daughters in that?
Okay. One of the first things I thought of as I was listening to you speak was conventional wisdom. That kind of popped into my head. I have a very good CPA. He's also an attorney by education. And when I first said to him, I want to create some taxable income for my daughters out of my business and open a Roth for them, he thought I was nuts. So, what do you want to pay taxes? Why don't you just open up a savings account for them or something? And so I had to take this very smart man and basically force myself on him that you're going to do 2 tax returns and I'll pay for the preparation and I'll pay the taxes and we're going to have taxable income and we're going to open these Roths. And, when you're in the audience at first trying to get started, I think for me, one of the stumbling blocks that helped me out was, the conventional wisdom, my CPA and people like that don't understand, they're not doing it. They're just not, they're historians and they're not wealth builders. And he meant wonderful things to me, but he basically I would listen to him for a year or two and I shouldn't have. I should have gone ahead and did it. One of the things I've done with our girls at IRAs is I've also opened up what I call this legacy or the stretch IRAs for our parents. We've helped them have earned income. We open up the legacy IRAs. And one of the things that's motivated my daughters is to see their grandmothers co-invested in things. And so if I say, well, you're going to have some money into Roth, they kind of nod their head. But when I say grandma's in there too, so you and grandma own, this investment, they can get that. They see that as kind of a team sport. And for whatever trigger point my daughters have, that works. What we've done is we own, we do lending, we do private lending. We have homes in our portfolio which were private loans we ended up taking back. We resold them and we now have long-term mortgages on them. We own a mobile home park. We own the water company in the mobile home park. It's actually a separate business that the IRA is funded. And most of my kids' CISAs and Roths. And so we set that up as a separate business so that could maybe cash flow a little quicker than some of the other longer-term hold things. So we use the CISAs as a family. We use them on things that I think our kids can see. They can see a house, and I've taken them to the house, and they've walked through the house, and there's a tangible value to that. I think it's very, very helpful for our kids to be able to visualize what it is they're investing in. And it's a process. Some days they just want the instant gratification. How can I? I think one of the best lessons we've given to them is you let them earn that $10, and you say, okay, here's 4 back. Put that in a jar. That's for taxes. Let them see immediately the pain of paying taxes on what she just paid babysitting, and then all of a sudden it's like there's got to be a better way than that. I didn't like that lesson. So we use that a lot too. We try and show them both sides of the coin. Here's the longer term saver side. Here's the time value of money lesson is great because I think it's hard for a young person to envision some huge number that's out there. But just knowing that it'll be better tomorrow is very, very helpful.
I want to tell a couple of quick stories about my kids, and I want to open up for questions because I think we're starting to get tight on time. I can't read from there. I'm getting a little bit older. I think that means we're almost out of time. I'm a member of a mastermind group, and we meet on a quarterly basis. We share business ideas, and for the first time last year, we got together and we did something for our kids while we were there. So as we were getting together and meeting and learning, our kids got together, much the way some of your kids did this weekend, and were taught how to own and operate a business. They had to buy in, buy inventory. We were in Park City, buy inventory, learn what their costs were, learn what they had to set their price points and what they could sell beads and the funny hats and that sort of thing. And then there's a parade that goes through Park City on July 4th, and they got to sell those things. There were 3 different groups, and it was a really cool experience. And I think every group either made $10 to $30 total, right, after paying their expenses and inventory. And when we got home, I didn't say anything to my kids because I wanted them, kind of the same way you did, where you put the marshmallow in, I wanted them to ask their own questions. I didn't want to come home and say, okay, you ready to start a business? Well, about 2 months later, my daughter gives me a call, and she says, I was on the road, and she says, Dad, I'm ready to start my own company. And I was like, yes. That's the coolest thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, it's music.
And I said, well, what do you want to do? And she goes, I want to do a duct tape wallet business. So you seen these things? Kids will make duct tape wallets. I thought she'd invented something really neat. What I didn't know is a lot of kids are actually doing that. And so she started this business with our neighbor, her best friend. And then she, on her own, found a small business group, entrepreneurial group in Austin, 4 kids, entered that business in the contest, and then competed within her age group. She ended up losing, but I'll tell you what, probably the most proud I've ever been in my life of my daughter for doing that on her own. Second story is 2 of my kids I felt were ready to start to learn about assets and creating multiple sources of income. And I think it's been mentioned a few times already is the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's the #1 business book in the world for a reason. It's very, very easy to understand. It's written really at a 9-year-old level because he was 9 when he met his rich dad. And so if you haven't read the book, first of all, pick it up yourself. Second of all, it's a really good book to let your kids read. And so I gave 2 of my kids the opportunity to read that this summer. And so I kind of prepared them. I said, look, this summer what I want you to do is read this book. And at the end of it, you write a 2-page report. And I don't care what it says. You can tell me you learned that, the guy had gray hair. I don't care what it is that you learned from it. You just have to tell me what it is that you learned. And then for that, I'll pay you $50. And so as we got closer to the summer, they were like, okay, they liked the idea of the $50. And they said, well, Dad, okay, how about we just read this book instead? And I said, look, you can read any book this summer you want, but the difference between your book and my book is my book pays $50. And so they did. They read the book. And I'll tell you what, it was interesting coming home every day and listening to their minds change as they started to think about money and assets a little bit differently. So with that, let's take a couple of minutes and open up to the group and